I am a very patient man. When I've set my mind on a goal, I do not feel it must be accomplished instantly. There is always plenty of time to act. Haste makes waste, the saying goes, and I quite agree. So it was in the matter of Felder. I was patient, Felder was not. This I knew was why I would triumph in the end. Oh, there was many a time I thought of just what I should do with Felder. He was a most annoying young man, conceited, very full of himself. As why shouldn't he be? He was quite wealthy, and my employer's son. They say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but in Felder's case, I must say it dropped and rolled a good long distance before coming to rest. His father was a true gentleman, kind, generous, slow to anger, quick to forgive. Precisely the opposite of his son, who merely assumed a genial facade, but beneath the surface was utterly selfish and uncaring for his fellow man. Now, I always held his father in high regard. This is one reason I felt that patience was called for. Harming Felder would no doubt have grieved his father, and I did not wish for that to happen. But still Felder himself deserved nothing good. More than once I found myself thinking of inviting him down into the deepest cellar for a nice glass of Amontillado, then walling him up to scream his life out in darkness. I never did that, of course. Felder would never fall for the trick, and I didn't have a capacious wine cellar in which to wall him up. A few dozen bottles of cheap wine in the closet, and even those cheap wines, the best the local discount grocer had to offer, were in any case too good for Felder. Nor could I take a clue from the Brewster sisters, give him a nice glass of homemade elderberry wine laced with cyanide and just a pinch of strychnine. Though burying his body in the cellar, that's cellar again, did have its appeal. I had so many thoughts over the years as I plotted my revenge. Felder dropped from a factory catwalk into a vat of acid, or a ladle of molten steel. Felder tied to the railroad tracks, with the 6:10 right on time. Felder tied to a log and run very slowly through a sawmill, feet first, in order to prolong the pain. Felder introduced to a beautiful, demure young lady, whose casual wear, once they were alone, would prove to be mostly leather and steel spikes, and who would take great pleasure in slowly dismembering such an obnoxious specimen. But I did none of this. How could I? Even if I wasn't caught, and in our fantasies we never are, any harm done to Felder would cause grief to his father, and his father was my employer, my mentor, and my friend. Now, as I said before, I am a patient man. Patience is usually rewarded. The day came when Felder's father passed away. Felder himself was not particularly upset. With his father's passing, he gained a controlling interest in the business. His two sisters, however, were distraught not only at their father's passing, but at what their odious brother intended to do. You see, Felder had plans. Once his father was safely in his grave, he intended to sell out to a big chain. "Family-operated funeral homes," he declared, "are obsolete." Adding, to me, "If you're lucky, maybe the new owners will let you keep your job. If not, it hardly matters, does it? You're an old man, you should be thinking about retiring." I had no interest in retiring. My job wasn't particularly hard after all, and my customers never complained. As for my customers' families, well, most were quite happy to see how good their departed relative looked in his casket. I am a bit of an artist. Most of my customers went into the ground looking better than they did during their final years. So did my employer. I took particular care with him, and I was properly sad at the funeral. Why not? I liked the old man. He had always been good to me. It was his son, his odious son, who made my life hell. Felder didn't even show up for his father's funeral. Neither of his sisters seemed particularly surprised, and both presumed he was either off negotiating the sale of their father's funeral home or patronizing some streetwalker. When several weeks had passed and Felder did not reappear, things began to settle down. The police had been notified the day after the funeral, but they made no progress. It was as if the detestable Felder had simply walked off the face of the earth. The sisters, who were less venial and much more like their father, continued to refuse all offers from the big chains. After 3 years and still no sign of their brother, the sisters decided to change the name of the business from Felder and Son to Felder and Nichols, taking me in as a full partner. I knew the business and did most of the work. No one knew what would happen if Felder suddenly decided to reappear, but we continued to run the place by now hoping he would not. But now, patient as I am, the time has come. My doctor has been in for the final time today and has admitted that I can hardly expect to live through the night. That is why I've decided to tell this story. Well, the truth is, I know where Felder is. I know precisely where he's been for all these years, and where I presume he will remain. Felder's father was a very large man, 6.5 feet tall, and weighing nearly 350 pounds. Felder himself was a runt, only 5'3". He weighed, I should think, no more than 130 pounds. A man like Felder's father had to be buried in a special casket, much larger than the standard models. A solid bronze oversized casket like the one we use is quite heavy, even without the deceased resting inside. So no one noticed that this one was perhaps a little heavier than it should have been, nor did they hear the faint sounds of drugged breathing from beneath the thin mattress on the adjustable platform supporting the body. I still wonder what Felder thought when the drugs finally wore off, and he awakened in the low, narrow space at the bottom of the casket. Did he scream? Did he plead for his life? Did he try to claw his way out? I can only speculate. But by that time, the casket was tucked away inside its concrete vault and covered over with 4 feet of earth. If he screamed, no one can hear him. If I am patient, Felder was not. But I do have to wonder if he finally learned patience. It wasn't as if there was anything else for him to do.